Now, when you say Avengers is much tougher, what do you mean by that?
Working with Bendis is number one.
Yeah.
And every Avenger in history is all in my issues.
Right, yeah.
I don't know why he does that. Then
because he wanted to see you draw every Avenger in history.
Exactly.
I believe he said that in interviews a few times.
I'm the victim of my own ability in that I was able to do group books.
Right.
And when I did group books, I succeeded in getting them done. So they said, well, he can do group books, and let's give him more. And then I got more stuff done. And then they started doing Cecil B. DeMille stuff.
Yeah.
Miller had me working on the Wolverine series, whatever years ago this was. And he started crashing the helicarrier into Times Square, and then there's a aircraft carrier that gets sunk, and everybody on that aircraft carrier gets ate by a shark.
Wow.
So he manages to stuff all this stuff in, and I succeeded in getting it done, so he was happy, and suddenly the word was around that I can handle these gigantic epics, and now I get them all the time. And then when I got the Avengers, I didn't expect it to be this way. Right. I really honestly thought it would be a little bit less. The Avengers, okay, so it's 7 characters. Now it's 19 or 20 characters in every issue.
Tiny panels, very tiny panels.
You know what? That is more difficult than I expected.
Really?
Is that the choreographing scenes that are quiet in a room with all of the Avengers.
Yeah.
Okay. And then there's a scene where they're all speaking. And then the following panel, they're speaking again only in odd positions. Yeah. So Bendis just throws them all into a room and says, this is what they're going to say. Yeah. Good luck trying to
figure it out.
Figure it out. So I have to move everybody around, and in the next panel, they're in a different spot. So I have guys drinking a cup of coffee, getting a cup of coffee in the background, so that it makes you believe that they're moving around. And it's not as easy as I expected it.
And how do you choreograph that? Do you write it out? Do you sort of put pieces on a desk?
I called him, and while I was screaming at him,
bunch of action figures.
He says, do whatever you have to. Adjust this. If you want to have guys moving around the background so it justifies the fact that they're in a different spot, do whatever you can, because it's really difficult for me to know the next panel, what drawing you're going to, what design you're going to make for this conversation. I said, wait a minute, you're supposed to tell me what the conversation is, and then I'm supposed to adjust to the conversation. That's what scripts are about.
Yeah. He's like, click.
So this is the argument that artists get into with writers. If you're doing scripts, you give me the balloons and I'll draw them according to the balloons. But now they tell me, don't look at it as a script, look at it as a plot. You do whatever you want, and we'll adjust if we have to.
Well, that's the Marvel style, right?
Well, it's an amalgam. It's a combination of two.
Okay.
But because I don't want the writer having to go back and read dialogue, for the sake that, Brian is a brilliant writer. I don't want him changing things drastically. So I try to give him everything he wants, and I just choreograph things. And I literally will have, if a conversation is going on left to right, and somebody at the end in the next panel is suddenly over on the left side of the image, I have to make sure that he shows up at the other side. I have him literally going in the back, opening a door, getting a cup of coffee in the background, and I throw things around like that. And Ben says, good idea, that's great. Well, if it's a good idea, why didn't you think of it? But he's got to handle it too. It's not easy with all of these different conversations going on. And some of the conversations have to be general chats.
Right.
That's one thing. Then when you have 20 characters in a battle scene, it is that more difficult.
Is that more comfortable for you? Or?
No, because you have to lead into future... Well, a conversation you have to lead in by moving a guy in the background. If there's a battle going on, and then subsequent to that panel, there's a battle with a different set of Avengers, at least don't have them falling out of the sky out of nowhere. Right. I show them in the background doing something else that makes you believe that they're part of it.
Right.
That's the difficult part. It's not just the two characters. If you have 20 Avengers battling somebody, he picks 3 or 4 at a time, and they're battling. You can't just have the other characters disappear. To me, it bothers me that they're suddenly nowhere, and then suddenly they're back again. So in the background, I'll show a silhouette of Wolverine's mask, and suddenly he appears in a fight. Right. That is a little bit more comfortable to me. It's extra work, and it's a pain in the ass. But at least I don't mind it that a guy will drop out of the sky suddenly to battle in the scene. And then sometimes Brian will forget that he didn't mention at the beginning of that scene how many Avengers were going to be.
Right.
So I learned my lesson, and I thumbnail out the whole issue first to make sure it makes sense. And that takes a day by itself.
Right.